My fiancée said, "Don't worry, it's just a bachelorette party," before leaving for her secret night out. A few hours later, I canceled the wedding and left her a letter that forced her to face the truth about her betrayal. My name is Javier. I am 32 years old, and I live in Madrid. A month ago, I was about to marry Elena, the woman I thought would be my everything. We had planned every detail, the wedding at an estate in Toledo, the menu with paella and Iberian ham, even the songs for the dance. Everything seemed perfect, but one night changed everything. It was Friday. Elena told me she was going to a bachelorette party with her friends in a downtown bar. "Do not worry, Javi, just a few drinks," she said with that smile that always calmed me. I saw her leave looking elegant, but not over the top, and I stayed home feeling confident. But something did not feel right. Lately, Elena had been distant, always on her phone, responding to messages she never showed me. Wedding stress, I thought, trying not to be paranoid. At 2 in the morning, she had not returned. She was not answering my messages. Worried, I checked her location on an app we shared. My heart stopped. She was not at the bar. She was at a mansion on the outskirts of Madrid, in Pozuelo. What was she doing there? My mind raced. An emergency, a surprise, but my gut screamed something else. Without thinking, I took the keys and drove to the address. The house was huge, with dim lights and music resonating. I parked far away and watched luxury cars, laughter, shadows moving behind the curtains. Then I saw her, Elena, at the entrance, laughing with a man I did not know. He was not a friend of her friends. He was no one she had ever mentioned. Their hands brushed, and she did not pull away. I felt a knot in my stomach. I was frozen, unable to move. I wanted to storm in, scream, demand answers, but something stopped me. If I went in, everything would explode. I needed proof. I drove back home with my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I did not sleep. When Elena arrived at dawn, she tried to be stealthy. "Where were you?" I asked, holding back my rage. "With the girls, I already told you," she replied, avoiding my eyes. Her voice trembled, but not with guilt, with practice. That morning I pretended everything was normal. We had breakfast together. I talked about the wedding as if nothing was wrong, but my mind was elsewhere. That night, when she fell asleep, I took her phone. She had not changed the password. I found a chat with someone named Carlos. The messages were a punch to the gut. "Last night was incredible, Elena. When do we do it again?" Her reply, "You are a danger, but I loved it." There were photos. Elena in that house, surrounded by strangers, toasting, smiling in a way she had not smiled with me in weeks. I could not breathe. The betrayal was real, planned, blatant. But I was not going to confront her. Not yet. If she could lie, I could plan. I called my friend Miguel, my confidant since university. "I need to disappear, but first I want her to feel what I feel," I said. Miguel did not hesitate. "Count on me, Javi. Let us do it right." I started to move the pieces. I transferred my money to a new account, canceled the lease on the apartment we shared. Luckily, it was only in my name, and I contacted the wedding vendors. One by one, I canceled everything. The catering, the flowers, the DJ. But I did not say anything to Elena. I wanted her to find out when it was too late. I wrote a simple, direct letter. "Elena, I know about the party. I know about Carlos. I know who you really are. There will be no wedding. By the time you read this, I will be gone. I hope your fun was worth it." I left it on the kitchen table, and I left. I drove to a rural house in Segovia, owned by Miguel's uncle. No signal, no noise, just me and my thoughts. On the third day, I turned on my phone. Dozens of messages and calls from Elena. First, panic. "Where are you? Let us talk." Then rage. "You are a coward for leaving like this." I smiled bitterly. I was not the coward. I did not reply. I turned off my phone and looked at the horizon. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. Revenge was not about yelling at her or exposing her. It was about leaving her alone with the consequences of her lies. The days at the rural house in Segovia passed slowly, but each one gave me more clarity. I had left Madrid behind, Elena, the wedding, everything. However, I could not help but wonder how she would have reacted upon finding my letter. Would she have felt guilt, anger, or just indifference? I did not want to know, but a part of me needed to confirm that my departure had shaken her as much as her betrayal had shattered me. On the 5th day, Miguel arrived with supplies and news. "Dude, Madrid is in an uproar, he said, leaving a bag of food on the table. Elena is hysterical, calling everyone saying you disappeared without reason. I laughed bitterly. Without reason. I had found messages from her planning more nights with that Carlos guy, mocking my trust, but Miguel had more. She contacted the wedding vendors. When they told her everything was canceled, she went crazy. She says you humiliated her on purpose. I did not deny it. I had canceled every detail of the wedding so she would feel the emptiness I felt reading her messages. But it was not enough. I wanted her to face the consequences for real, without violence, without unnecessary drama, just with the truth exposed. What else do you know? I asked. Miguel took out his phone and showed me a WhatsApp group of mutual friends. Elena had written a public message saying that I had abandoned her without explanation, that she was devastated. The perfect victim. That gave me an idea. I was not going to answer her directly, but I could make sure the truth came out. I contacted Lucia, a mutual friend who had always been direct and fair. I told her everything, the party, the messages, the photos. I sent her screenshots as proof. I do not want a spectacle, I told her. I just want people to know why I left. Lucia promised to handle things discreetly. 2 days later, I received a message from her. Javi, things exploded. I uploaded the screenshots to a private group with the girls. Someone leaked them. I was not surprised. Secrets like Elena's do not last long. Apparently her friends were furious, not with her, but with me for exposing her. But others, like our friend Pablo, wrote to support me. I had no idea, Javi. You did the right thing by leaving, his message said. Elena, for her part, had stopped writing in the group. Absolute silence. I turned on my phone again, expecting more messages from her. There was a new one. How could you do this to me? Everyone is pointing fingers at me now. You are selfish. I smiled coldly. Selfish? She, who had planned secret nights while I was paying for the wedding, was calling me selfish. I did not reply. Instead, I made another decision. It was time to cut the last tie that bound us, the electricity contract for the apartment, which was still in my name. I called the company and canceled it, knowing she would find out when she got home and had no electricity. That night Miguel came back. Elena is desperate, he said. She went to the apartment and found no lights. She called the landlord, but since the contract is canceled, he cannot do anything until she pays for it out of her own pocket. I felt a pang of satisfaction. It was not cruelty, it was justice. She had played with me, and now she had to deal with the consequences of her choices. But then Miguel gave me some news I did not expect. There is more, Javi. That Carlos guy is not just anybody. He is a private party organizer known for messing with engaged women. Someone recognized him in the photos. My blood ran cold. This was not just an affair. Elena had fallen into a circle I could not even imagine. Do you think she knew who he was? I asked. Miguel shrugged. I do not know, but it seems it was not the first time she went to one of those parties. That revelation changed something in me. It was not just a personal betrayal. Elena had been living a double life. I decided I could not stay in Segovia forever. I needed to close this chapter and move on. I called my father, who lived in Valencia. We had not talked much in years, but when I told him what had happened, his response was immediate. Come home, Javier. You will always have a place here. I packed my bag that same night. Before leaving, I wrote one last message to Elena, without sending it yet. I am not the one who humiliated you. You did it to yourself. Goodbye. I saved it in drafts, knowing I would send it when I was ready. As I drove towards Valencia, I felt a mix of relief and determination. Elena could continue with her parties and her lies, but I was free, and for the first time, that was enough. The trip to Valencia was a blur of highways and jumbled thoughts. I drove under a gray sky, leaving behind Madrid and everything Elena represented. I had not looked back since I left Madrid, but the idea of facing my new reality at my father's house made me nervous. How do you explain that your life fell apart in a week? Upon arriving in Valencia, the salty sea air gave me a strange calm. It was a new beginning, although I did not know where to start. My father welcomed me to his small apartment near the beach. There were no grand gestures, just a firm hug and a "Come in, Javier." We had dinner in silence with the sound of the waves in the background. He did not pressure me to talk, but when I mentioned Elena, he just nodded. You did the right thing, he said, pouring himself more wine. Now it is time to rebuild. His words were simple, but they gave me an anchor. That night, I slept for the first time in days without waking up sweating. The next morning, I checked my phone. Elena had stopped writing, but the group of friends was still active. Lucia sent me a private message. Javi, be careful. Elena is saying that you made everything up to make her look bad. My blood boiled. Made it up? The evidence was there, clear as day. I decided not to fall into her game. Instead of replying, I contacted a lawyer friend of my father, Raul, to make sure Elena could not claim anything from the apartment or the accounts I had already closed. Raul was clear. Everything is in your name. She has nothing to demand. But then came an unexpected twist. Lucia called me that afternoon with a tense voice. Javi, there is something you should know. Carlos, the party guy, is in trouble. Someone reported him for organizing illegal events, drugs, shady stuff. The police are investigating, and Elena's name came up in a seized chat. My mind reeled. Elena involved in something like that? I could not believe it, but the pieces fit. The secret parties, her evasive attitude, the photos. Is she involved in that? I asked. Lucia hesitated. I do not know, but her name appears. They are looking for her for questioning. That news left me cold. Not only had she betrayed me, but she was involved in a much darker world than I had imagined. I felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief because my decision to leave was even more right, and anger because the woman I almost married was a stranger. I decided to stay out of it. I was not going to contact her. I was not going to get involved. Let her face the consequences alone. That night I spoke with my father. I told him about the investigation. He frowned, but was not surprised. People who lie always end up trapped in their own webs, he said. He suggested I focus on myself. You have a good job, Javier. You can start over here. He was right. My company allowed me to work remotely, so I requested a temporary transfer to the Valencia office. It was a way to keep myself busy and away from the rumors in Madrid. The next day, I received an email from Pablo. He had spoken with Elena, and she admitted part of the truth. She had been to several of Carlos's parties, but swore she knew nothing about illegal activities. I just wanted to have fun, she told him. Pablo did not entirely believe her, and neither did I. Her excuses changed nothing, but the email included something else, a screenshot of a message from Elena in a private group. Javi ruined my life, but I will find a way out of this. I smiled bitterly, always trying to be the victim. I decided to take the final step. I sent the message I had saved in drafts. Elena, I am not the one who ruined you. You did it yourself. Goodbye. I hit send and blocked her number. Then I deactivated my account in the mutual friends group. I did not want more drama, more excuses, more lies. Valencia was my refuge, and I was determined to build something new. That afternoon, I went for a walk on the beach. The sea was calm, and for the first time in weeks, I felt I could breathe without a weight on my chest. I was not ready to forget, but I was ready to move on. Elena would face what was coming, whether it was with the police or with her conscience. I, on the other hand, had a future ahead of me, and this time it would be mine. Valencia became my refuge, but not a hiding place. Every morning, waking up to the sound of the sea, I felt like I was getting a piece of myself back. My father, with his comforting silence, gave me space to heal, but he also pushed me to act. You cannot just stare at the waves forever, Javier, he told me one morning while we were having breakfast. He was right. It was time to take control of my life, not just run from the rubble Elena left behind. My remote work at the Valencia office kept me busy. I was assigned an important project, which forced me to focus on something other than my past, but I could not completely ignore the news coming from Madrid. Lucia kept me updated, although I asked her not to tell me more than necessary. Elena went to testify to the police, she wrote one day. She said she only went to the parties for fun, that she knew nothing about anything illegal. She has not been charged, but she is under pressure. I felt no pity. She had chosen that path, and now she had to face it. One day, while checking emails, I received an unexpected one from Raul, the lawyer. Javi, Elena tried to contact me. She wants to sue you for emotional damages and for canceling the apartment lease without notice. I was stunned. Sue me? That woman's audacity had no limits. I called Raul immediately. She has no case, he assured me. The apartment was in your name, and there is no evidence that you acted in bad faith. But be careful. She is looking for any way to get to you. I felt a spark of anger, but also a new determination. I was not going to let her drag me into her game. I decided to fight back, but legally and discreetly. I gathered all the evidence I had, the messages, the photos, the screenshots. I sent them to Raoul with a clear instruction. If she tries anything, use this to show that I acted to protect myself, not to harm her. I also contacted the landlord of the apartment in Madrid. I explained the situation and asked him to confirm that all cancellations were legal and in my name if Elena asked. "Do not worry, Javier," he told me. I already thought the way she played the victim was strange. Days later, Pablo called me. "Elena is losing allies," he said. "Some friends have abandoned her after seeing the evidence, and Carlos, the party guy, is in custody." The investigation got serious. I was not happy about Elena's downfall, but I felt a sense of justice. Her lies were unraveling, and there was no one else to blame. Pablo added something that surprised me. "She tried to contact you on social media, but since you blocked everything, she is frustrated. I think she finally understands that you are not coming back." That news gave me an idea. I checked my social media profiles, which I had temporarily deactivated. I reactivated them, but only to post a photo of the sea in Valencia with a short message. New beginning. I did not mention Elena. I did not give details. It was my way of closing the door, of showing the world and her that I was moving on. The responses from friends and colleagues were overwhelming. Messages of support, strength emojis, even a comment from Lucia, "That is how you do it, Javi." That night my father invited me to dinner at a restaurant near the beach. While we were eating fresh fish, he looked at me with a seriousness he rarely showed. "Javier, I am proud of you. It is not easy to cut ties with everything and start over." His words hit me. I had not sought his approval, but having it gave me a boost I did not know I needed. "Thanks, Dad," I replied, "but I still have work to do." The next day, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Elena, using someone else's phone. "Javi, please, let us talk. I am not who you think I am." I swear I did not know what Carlos was doing. I did not reply. Instead, I blocked the number and sent a screenshot to Raoul in case she tried anything legal. Her desperation was palpable, but it was not my problem. She had crossed a line that had no return. As I walked along the beach at sunset, I thought about my next step. Valencia would not be just a temporary refuge. I decided to look for my own apartment and stay. Work was going well, and the city offered me a freedom that Madrid could no longer give me. For the first time, I felt that the future was not a threat, but an opportunity. Elena could continue with her excuses, but I was no longer part of her story. 3 months have passed since I arrived in Valencia, and my life no longer resembles the one I left in Madrid. I rented a small apartment near the port, a few steps from the sea. My job at the local office became permanent, and although I still think about what happened with Elena, the pain no longer defines me. Every day in this city reminds me that I made the right decision by leaving, by cutting ties with a past that only existed in my head. One morning, while having coffee with my father, I received a message from Lucia. "Javi, you have to know this. Elena moved to Barcelona. The investigation into Carlos's parties is ongoing, but she is not charged. It seems she wants to start from scratch." I read the message and felt nothing, not anger, not relief, just indifference. Elena was no longer my problem. She had faced the consequences of her lies, friends who turned their backs on her, a damaged reputation, and the need to flee to another city. I did not need more revenge. Life had already taken care of it. That same day, Raoul called me. "Elena withdrew any attempt to sue," he said. "She has nothing against you, and she knows it. Besides, the landlord in Madrid demanded she pay the arrears on the apartment, and she could not. She is in a financial mess." I nodded, grateful for having tied up all the loose ends. Canceling the apartment lease and the accounts on time had protected me. "Thanks, Raoul," I replied. "This ends here." I hung up, feeling that a chapter was closing forever. I decided to focus on my future. I started going out more, reconnecting with old friends from Valencia, and making new ones. One afternoon, in a tapas bar with coworkers, I met Marta, a graphic designer who was working on a joint project with my company. It was not love at first sight, but her frank laugh and her unfiltered way of talking made me genuinely smile for the first time in months. I was not looking for a relationship, but her company reminded me that I could trust again. Little by little. A week later, my father took me fishing, something we had not done since I was a child. As we were casting our lines, he told me something that stuck with me. Javier, people like Elena lose themselves before they lose others. You did not. You found yourself. His words resonated. I had lost a wedding, a life I thought was perfect, but I gained clarity, strength, and the certainty that I deserved something real. That night, I checked my phone for the last time before deleting all the old notifications. There were no more messages from Elena or from unknown numbers. I knew she had moved on, or at least was trying to. I was too. I posted another photo on social media, this time with my father on the boat, smiling under the Valencia sun. Living, I wrote. The supportive comments from friends and colleagues were a reminder that I was not alone. Days later, I received an invitation to a local art exhibition where Marta was showing her work. I went more out of curiosity than anything else. Her work was vibrant, full of life, and when we talked afterwards, she invited me for coffee. I accepted, not because I was ready for something new, but because I felt free to try. As we walked through the streets of Valencia, with the smell of orange blossoms in the air, I knew I was leaving behind the weight of betrayal. Elena faced the consequences of her actions, not by my hand, but by her own decisions. I, on the other hand, built a new beginning. It was not easy, but it was fair. And at that moment, with the sea by my side and a life ahead of me, I knew I did not need anything else to move forward.